Cutting a hole in my roof in the middle of winter seems just wrong. Let's see if it's really worth it.
In the last video, we unboxed the stove, we gave it its first burn to get all the fumes out of the paint, and next we're going to be doing the full install, and I'm going to take you through it step by step. First of all, I'm going to install this, the heat shield, so I know exactly where the stove is going to end up, and then I can plan my chimney exit through the roof.
So here's the heat shielding system installed. It's quite nicely bent and laser cut, and everything fits together well. It's just a very clean, easy solution for this stove, and I think it's worth buying this. I thought about making my own, but it would just take me hours and hours to source the material and figure it all out, so this is worth it for me. Okay, so I've got the stove installed where I want it to be, in the middle of that Japanese burnt wall there. And one thing to note is with the heat shielding, the great thing about it is it reduces your clearances at the back from 14 inches to 3 inches. So you can have it pretty close to the wall. You save a lot of interior space. And I definitely think it's worth doing that just to get that additional space inside your building. So I realized something as I was thinking about this. I actually installed the pipe as it's finally going to be. I screwed everything in, screwed in all the sections so it's nice and tight. Put it in the center of the wall, and I left a few feet of pipe there uninstalled, and I'm going to go up there with my ladder. I'm going to run a plumb bob down to here instead of all the way to the bottom, just there, and then I'll have a more accurate reading as to where I should drill the hole. Okay, so I've got my plumb bob, I've got my Sharpie. I'm going to grab my ladder and climb up to the top and take a measurement and mark the hole for the roof cut.
And that looks pretty well centered there. I'm gonna mark that.
I've got my drill with just a medium-sized drill bit, and now I'm gonna go up onto the roof, and this is the point of no return. And I'm only doing this because this is the first clear day we've had. We've had a ton of snow. So this is the only day the only window I have probably in a while to have the silicone sealant dry once I put the boot on. So what I want to do here is I found my black mark, push up against the roof, and now I'm going to try and drill as vertically as possible. We're through. I can see the light through the roof. We now have a little hole in our roof. So now it is go time. So before I actually go on the roof, I'm gonna cut my deck tight rubber boot and pre-drill the screw holes, I think, for the roof screws, just so everything's ready and I can just go up there and do it. I need 125 mil, so that's 5 inches. It's gonna be right here, so I'm gonna cut here in this crease. And is my knife sharp enough to do this? Let's see. If you go slower, make sure you wear gloves for this. So there you have it. That's cut for a 5-inch pipe, and I think we should be okay. So now you gotta flip it like this, because it's gonna be like this on the roof, because that silicone won't stick to this rubber, I don't think, so you want to stick to this aluminum strip and then your metal roof. So we want to clean this up. I'll take that off and I'll drill some holes. Okay, so I'm gonna pick a drill bit that is smaller in diameter than these screws. I'm just gonna mark down this middle line here. One there, one in the middle. Where's that line there? One on that side. Then I might do one here, one here, one here, one here. So yeah, fair amount of screws, but I want it to be even pressure all the way down, squeezing the silicone. I'm going to repeat that on all 4 sides here, and we'll go drill the holes. Okay, so I've got all my holes drilled in my deck tight rubber boot. That's going to seal the chimney pipe. So now I think I'm gonna go up on the roof and clean the roof of the snow and give it a good clean with alcohol. Also clean this with alcohol, and then we'll start putting it all together. Okay. Where's the hole? There's the hole. Right there. That's where I'm gonna drill my big hole. There's my hole. So basically, that's my goal right there. Drill like that vertically, because the pipe's gonna come out vertically. So that allows for enough clearance for everything. So let's give it a go. It's probably gonna yank my arm off. There we go. Hole cut. I think I'll use a different tool to cut this. Maybe my oscillating saw. Yeah, let's try that. Oh, all right. Let's try this. Like a little bit looks pretty good. I think that's all right. Let's go with that. So as you can see, the hole was cut pretty well centered for the pipe. So I'm pretty happy with how that turned out. All right, time to put the insulation pipe on. Gonna just kind of guide it on there. Push it down. Hung up on there. All right, there we go.
So I've got the stove fully installed now. It's mounted on its base. It's got the stainless shielding behind it to decrease the required clearance between the stove body and the wall. It's got the stainless shielding running all the way behind the 3-inch insulated pipe to decrease the required clearance there as well and keep the wall safe from the radiant heat. So I've got the 3-inch insulated pipe going all the way through, all the way to the chimney cap. And then where we get close to the roof And all the way to the chimney cap as well, we have 5-inch insulated pipe. And that 5-inch insulated pipe is to keep the wood and the insulated foam and stuff safe from too much heat from the 3-inch pipe, so it decreases the radiant heat. And then it goes all the way to the top, and that keeps your chimney warm all the way to the top to the exit. And basically what I've learned, guys, is first of all, you want to make sure that you have a fairly good run of chimney pipe. If you have a short run, like say 5 feet, 6 feet, even 10 feet, you won't draft as well. The stove requires a good draft. Factors that influence a draft are the chimney length and the amount of heat that remains inside the chimney. So by having this insulated pipe all the way, then having the extra layer of 5-inch insulated pipe all the way to the top where it exits into the exterior, you keep that chimney warm and you keep the draft as high as possible. Another thing to quickly mention is you don't want any bends in your stovepipe. You want a straight stovepipe. That's what I would do personally. You could put 245s if you have some funky arrangement that you have to get through to get to the roof, but I would just pick a spot for the stove where you're going to have a straight run, and that's especially important for these small stoves that have small diameter chimney pipe. You need as much flow as possible to have an excellent draft. The other thing I'll mention is you need to have as much of the chimney inside the building as possible, and that basically keeps the heat from the chimney inside the building. It decreases the amount of 5-inch insulating pipe that you'll need to put on top of the 3-inch insulated pipe. And basically that creates a better draft as well, because the chimney pipe will be a lot warmer inside than it will be outside. So find a spot in your building that's near the peak height and then install the stove there. I would do that for sure. I wouldn't go off to the side where you have to have a ton of chimney coming out of the top of the roof. I would keep it as close to the peak height as possible, and then you'll make sure that your system performs as good as possible. Because the last thing you want to do is spend a bunch of money and effort installing one of these things, and then you have a poor draft, you have smoke pouring out the door every time you open the door, you don't have a good burn. So just follow those rules, and I think your installation will be as good as it possibly can be. Just to give you an idea of the weather conditions here for this first burn indoors, it's snowy out there, it's below freezing, not super cold, maybe -3 degrees Celsius, but cold enough that it's cold here in the shop. I had the diesel heater running for a little while. I just turned that off, and it's definitely started to cool down significantly in here. So let's get this wood stove fired up and see if it really warms up this shop. One thing I've started doing is making my own fire starter. And what this is I basically just get dryer lint, which is free. I jam a bunch of dryer lint into a Ziploc bag, and then I pack a bunch of Vaseline in there as well. I close the Ziploc bag and I just pound that together until it becomes kind of like a bit of a mess. But what this is going to allow me to do is I just grab a pinch of this, and it'll burn for about 5 minutes, enough to get a fire started. I don't need newspaper, I don't need cardboard, although that can help sometimes. But this is really a good way to get stuff going, and it's other than the Vaseline, it's basically free. You can make a ton of this with 1 tub of Vaseline. You could probably get a year's worth of this with 1 tub. So just a little tip there that I've kind of figured out over the years. Okay, so what I basically like to do when I light my fire, and I'm going to apply the same tactics here. First of all, I'm going to make sure that my air intake is open here. That feeds directly into the front here. I'm going to lay a large piece of wood at the back. And I typically like to build a lean-to fire structure. I just find that's the easiest, and I've had a lot of success with that. And we have a wood stove in the house, so I've built, a fair amount of fires over the years. So I put a bit of my my homemade fire starter in there. I sort of scrunched it up a little bit and made it a bit more fluffy. And then I'm just gonna lay small kindling pieces that I've made over that fire starter that I made as well. And I'm just going to kind of make them into sort of a lean-to teepee shape. And then I'm just going to, I'll zoom in a bit more here so you can see. And then I'm just going to light my fire starter. See if I can reach through. That's lit.
it's starting to take already. And you can see how easy it is with that fire starter to get this stuff going. And I don't have to buy any fire starter. I can just make it from my dryer lint. If you don't have dryer lint, if you don't have a dryer for some reason, just use cotton balls. That works probably a little bit better, but then you gotta buy cotton balls. So dryer lint is probably the easiest and most affordable way to do this. See, look how easily it takes with that fire starter there. And I don't know if you can hear that, but the draft is just roaring right now. By the way I cut this wood to the right length of about 6 inches is I just use my chop saw. And I can do a whole tote full of these in about 5 minutes. Just with my chop saw or my miter saw, whatever you want to call it. And I found that's the fastest way to do this. If you didn't have power to do that, yeah, you'd have to use like a silky saw or a folding saw or something, or a buck saw or something like that, and it would take a long time. So yeah, just get a chop saw, and I would say that's the easiest way to process this wood down to the right length. So I'm just going to stuff this thing full, as full as I can right now, because it's just roaring. Got a good coal bed going. Just stuff that full, close the door, and see how it goes. And I've got to say, I wasn't too sure how this little wood storage bin in the stand here would work, but I've actually found that it's quite nice, and it's a nice place just to have, you know, a few fires worth of wood under here. It's out of the way, looks awesome, so I would highly recommend this. And if you have a look over here, that's the tool storage right there, guys. Look how neat that is. They all just go right in here in their holders. So I would say if you're in the market for one of these stoves, this stand is just, it's worth it, I think. If it fits your space, it fits your installation type, I would say that's an awesome purchase. I just want to demonstrate what I talked about before regarding opening the door slowly versus fast. Watch what happens when I open the door fast. You see that smoke pour out there for a second? I mean, it wasn't a lot because this stove is just drafting like crazy, but it was enough to sort of stink up the room a little bit. And watch what happens when I crack it open slightly. Let the pressure equalize. Open the door slowly. Barely any smoke came out. So that's a great tip for anyone that has a wood stove. And look at that in there, guys. That is just roaring. Got a huge bed of coals in there. So the stove is roaring away. The Eco Fan is roaring away. And these are great little products, guys. So this basically just uses the heat from the top of the stove to generate a temperature difference, which turns this motor. And these fans push about 100 cubic feet per minute, and I can actually feel it pushing air towards me here. And they basically just heat up the room about 20% faster than not having a fan like this. So this is a must buy for me. I have one in my house as well. I love these things. One thing I did notice was there's like barely any heat coming off these pipes here. So yeah, the double insulated pipes work really well. I would never go single wall with this stove, guys. Don't do that. Barely any heat. I can barely feel heat here. Behind the stove, where you've got this shielding, I basically feel no heat, guys. That shielding is capturing and reflecting all the heat. Like, it's not even hot back there. So this is a very safe setup here. The wood stove's very hot. I can feel it from like a foot away easily, but it's not actually getting to the wall, which is really nice. So we got the stove fully installed. It honestly took me about a day of running back and forth, going up the ladder about 100 times. I've never done it before, so there's quite a bit of a learning curve just to kind of figure out what the step-by-step process is, what to do in which order. But we got it figured out, and I'm really happy with the install. It's really clean. No leaks, everything looks really good. In terms of the stove's performance, I'm really happy with that as well. The draft is amazing. I thought the draft might be a little bit weak because it's a small stove, but it's just like my big stove at home. It's basically just a mini version of like a higher end home stove. So in terms of quality and everything, don't worry about that. This is a great stove. It's just the perfect stove for a small space because it doesn't take up a lot of room. You don't need a lot of clearances. The shielding that you can buy from them really reduces the clearance so that you can have the stove almost against the wall. These side flaps block a lot of the heat off coming sideways. After I got it going really hot, I kind of went around the stove with my hands and just saw where the heat was and how hot it was. And I could easily put my hand behind here, behind the stovepipe without any issues whatsoever. It wasn't even that hot because of the double insulated pipe. Behind the stove against the wall, like there wasn't any heat at all against my wooden wall here. So it's a very safe setup as long as you install it properly and follow the instructions. Like I said, the stove has a really good draft. It has a primary adjustment here, which just opens a flap here on the front of the stove. And it has a secondary adjustment here as well, which adjusts how much air comes into the secondary combustion chamber here at the top. It's built like a lot of the higher end home stoves, like I mentioned. I did notice that the first time I burnt it outside, because I let it smolder down and smoke inside here, the window got covered with ash. A nice hot burn will clear that up, and as you can see now, you can see inside the stove. So just make sure you run it hot, run it efficiently, and you shouldn't have any problems with the window going black with ash and soot. And yeah, regarding the installation, I would just do a straight run as high as you can up to the center of your peak or close to the center. Have as much of this pipe inside the building as you can to keep the pipe warm, to keep your building warm. And keeping your pipe warm increases the draft, so that's a very important factor to consider. Now, I will give you a tip here. If you're buying a new stove, regardless if it's this one or another one, make sure you burn it outside for a few days. I would say at least 10 hours. Because I burnt this outside for about 3 hours and then I brought it in, and the paint is still curing after about 2 days, and it smells terrible, guys. Just like any other stove, the paint that it comes with is uncured. So you've got to cure it yourself when you get home by running a really hot fire for quite a while. At least I say 2 or 3 days to get rid of that smell completely. And it is a pretty strong smell. I can't stay in here and work while this is hot right now. I need to cure it more because it just really stinks and it burns your eyes and stuff. So just a note, burn it outside for as long as you can. Get rid of that paint curing smell, and then you'll be golden. So all in all, I'm extremely happy with the stove. I bought it with my own money. I didn't have any affiliation with Cubic Mini at the time. I just bought this one because there isn't really many options for a small stove for a small space, and there isn't many high quality options, and this is one of the only ones. It's made in Canada by a company in Quebec, and they ship all over North America and I believe to Europe as well and the UK. So if you are thinking of getting one of these stoves, there's an affiliate link below in the description. They're having a big sale right now, Cubic Mini, so it'd be a good time to get one. And using that affiliate link does help the channel and help me to put more videos out. So if you found this useful, please subscribe. I've got more videos coming. I'm going to compare this to the diesel heater so you can kind of see the pros and cons. And next, I'm doing a big solar build. This whole shop is going to be fully off-grid in terms of electricity. So we're going to have a big battery, solar panels, the charge controller, inverter, all that kind of stuff. And I'm going to walk you through step by step. How do you size the loads? How do you pick the components? A lot of the other videos I've seen on YouTube, they don't really go through the detail enough step by step, and you don't really understand why they chose certain parts and certain components. So I'm going to try and be as thorough as I can so that you can follow along and you could do your own build one day too. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you soon. Take care.